artist and making money across so many different fields is kind of terrifying to me.
That is true, but like, hasn't that
like,
always kind of been some of the complaints I think are unique to AI, but also some of these are complaints that come up every single
I
time.
think the pro AI side and the anti AI side, but obviously I'm biased because I'm an AI developer. But yeah, so
I want you to lose your job. That's what I'm trying to do.
Here's a question, Radiant. If you could get a better girlfriend who is an AI girlfriend, is that better and available to more people than having a real girlfriend? Or should that be like not an option for people?
I think it should be an option. And
But this might be more akin to like if people who are prompting AI, instead of calling themselves like people who make videos, they call themselves people who are like proficient at prompting Claude or whatever for a funny video, that it would be a little bit more honest. Maybe not necessarily good or bad, but at least, you know, the conversation would be a little bit more honest, I guess.
Yeah, like the same way if you're like a CEO of a big tech company and you're doing like animation, or like maybe you're doing, could be anything, whatever you do. Like if you as the CEO claim to be good at the things your employees are doing, or kind of pretend that you are, I do feel like there's some kind of deception that's happening there, which is very similar to me as kind of like taking credit for the output of someone else, which is something that I think is really bad with generative AI.
Okay.
Or like people that use it, rather.
Okay. Let's assume that we lived in a world where everybody was like super open and honest and knew that like, okay, well, these people are just prompting AI, but then that content becomes more popular anyway. How do you speak to something like that?
I think it's really depressing.
Sure. But depressing
I think
is, especially from somebody who I'm assuming, what do you do again? Are you artist or programmer?
I'm a game developer.
Game developer. Okay, yeah.
So, I do
I can
some programming, yeah.
Sure. I can sympathize with the depressing feeling, although I would say a lot of musicians definitely feel that way when it comes to like sample libraries and stuff as well, that like, oh, they don't have to hire us anymore to play anything. Like Hollywood can just, you know, play it off of a fucking, whatever sample library instead.
So do you think that something bad happened there in that transition?
Um,
And I guess you would say that something bad did happen, but the positives outweigh the negatives, sort of?
I would have to think about that a lot. Something bad absolutely happened. I think that's undeniable. I think anybody that has spent... I think it's impossible to spend any amount of time working with any art ever and to come away thinking that it's good when you're removing human elements from anything, right? Like you can argue that something bad happened with DAWs, you know, replacing, or sample libraries replacing musicians or whatever, that any of these things are bad. And anytime you're moving more humans from any kind of the creative process, it sucks. I think that the benefits that we're gaining that are unfortunate, it's hard to say, but like...
I'm sorry if that got you.
What? Oh, you're good, don't worry.
Hey there.
Oh, sorry. So the big... Okay, what do you... Can you tell me more specifically, what do you do?
Well, so it's complicated, but I've been a professional game developer for like 15 years.
Sure.
at this
When you say
point.
like game developer, though, are we talking like management? Are you like a designer, programmer? Are you like concept art? Do you do like environment art? Or what is it?
I'm a technical artist for the most part, which usually is somewhere in between tech and art in a very simplistic way.
Okay.
So I do shader programming, I do render pipeline stuff. I also do some regular gameplay programming, but I also do some 3D art. So it kind of depends on like when in my life I did
Okay.
any given thing. I'm an indie developer pretty much, so you kind of have to do
a little bit of
wear a
everything,
lot
sure.
of hats, right?
Okay. So I don't know, I guess if you would have gotten this as much, but one thing that's very annoying when you work in any kind of art field that is where the products are consumed by the public is people in your real life will cheapify what you do very quickly. So if you are a musician or if you're a photographer, it's not uncommon that you'll find, you know, forums of musicians and photographers saying like, hey, what can I do? My friend just asked me to help them draw their 12-panel manga and they're offering me $50 for it. And I don't know how to tell the person that this is an insulting offer. Or a friend said, hey, you still have like cameras and stuff. You should come with me to my wedding and photograph it, you know, as like a favor, you know, and people always like cheapify their friends' artistic talents. I think that there's like this huge demand for art stuff everywhere, right? In video games and advertisement and movies and like everything, there's this huge demand. And to pay an actual human to do any of it is a lot of money compared to now prompting AI. But I mean, like even before prompting, you had like stock images, you had 3D generators, you had a million different ways to get, the stuff. And now you found like the ultimate cheapo way to do it. Sorry, to go back to the thing I was saying at the very beginning, it's impossible to work in any art field and not feel a little bit sad by this because of the 2 points you brought in earlier. One is the huge damage to the community because now all these people are basically out of work. It's already hard to make it when you do art or any kind of artistic or video or whatever audio thing. If you do any of this professional, it's already hard to make it. And now you're being threatened by so many different new technologies. So sorry, I think, I don't know why I just yapped all that. I yapped all that in response to like, yeah, I feel like something is obviously lost. It feels bad for sure. I don't know how you avoid that though, aside from like literally legislating against it because the technology is going to be, and already is to some extent, so pervasive. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be super hard to fight back against it because the incentives are just so misaligned. Like financially, it makes so much sense for any company to start using AI, especially for art. And so I feel like I don't think like you can make much progress legally in general or for like corporate politics, but I do think you might be able to make a progress socially. I think there used to be a very positive sentiment around generative AI, but I think it's starting to tilt negative, which I think is really, really good in terms of culture. I do think that companies should feel ashamed by using AI, and I do think it's justified to shame people for using AI. And I would also say that whenever I've used AI, I feel shame myself, and I think that is correct. In a sense.
While I understand what you're saying there, my God, the financial savings and the amount of output that you can achieve using these things, I feel like it's going to be so great. Like if we were talking like a 10% improvement in output, then I think you could shame people away from it. But in some cases, if we're talking about like a 200 to 1000% increase in output where you're replacing sometimes multiple employees by having a single employee that's capable of utilizing these things and they're only getting more efficient, I feel like that's going to be really hard to do. And I also feel like for some of these industries, like this sucks because when you're an artist, it's already hard to make money. But because I don't know if this all people are just Americans. Americans are so fucking spoiled. Like if you were to tell a video game person that like video games are going to cost $65 instead of $60, video gamers would kill themselves en masse. They can't pay for fucking anything, but they'll waste infinite money on fucking DoorDash and Uber Eats and skins on League or whatever, but they won't actually pay for games more. So if you can have companies that can operate so much more cost effectively than you, I just don't know how you survive that financial pressure.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't really have a good... I don't have a good answer to like how to solve it in a way, apart from like just trying to push back in the sense of just, I mean, it sounds silly to say that you should shame people for using it, but I do genuinely feel like it does matter in terms of how people use it. But when it comes to companies, yeah, you're right. It's going to be near impossible to stop them from doing anything as long as it's
And not
still
just,
legal and possible.
but also not just companies too. Like this is going to filter down into employees to some extent as well, right? Because if you're a company and you're competing with another company that is using a ton of AI, you're going to have to be paying. Well, your employees would have to be willing to take a significant pay cut because you're probably not going to be able to sell your product for more than the competitors because gamers and everybody that consumes art are usually spoiled as fuck. So now you're going to have to pay all of your workers less. And the work is probably going to be more brutal and more time consuming. It just seems like you're putting the employees in a rough spot as well. All of this conversation right now is just on the practical side of things, I guess. We're not really talking about the ethical side or kind of like the are we losing anything side, to be fair. So we can switch over to that if you want.
What do you feel about it, like ethically?
Well, I mean, like on the most artistic level, I would want a human to be involved at every part of the process of creating something. Like at the most extreme level, I would want like every restaurant to have like a live band playing, but I mean, that's obviously not practical. So we have to find some middle ground. It's just that middle ground changes based on the technologies available, I guess.
And it is tricky to know where to draw that line. It's kind of like your example with the like music technology, like using a drum machine. Like, is that bad or is that good? Like it does get kind of fuzzy in some of those cases. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly where to draw that line, but I do feel like the way that generative AI right now is like threatening the like financial viability of being an artist and making money across so many different fields is kind of terrifying to me.
That is true, but like hasn't that always kind of been some of the complaints I think are unique to AI, but also some of these are complaints that come up every single time to every new technology, right? Like every advancement in digital music or whatever threatens jobs for studio musicians. For sure, it absolutely does. Yeah.
I mean, it does threaten it, yes. But I do feel like it's different this time because this time the output of this basically lets you avoid having to make decisions like ever within the piece of art that you're making in a way that like I don't think any piece of technology has let you do that before. Because like now you're giving up the composition, you're giving up the ideas, you're giving up the shape of the thing you're making, you're giving up the colors, the values, like all of that stuff.
Well, what do you mean by how are you
like outsourced,
how are
right?
you giving it up?
You're not really doing composition anymore. Like you're typing a prompt that's effectively like you're commissioning someone else to make something, which isn't really someone, it's something, right?
Sure. I'm trying to think of like, do you do anything in music at all?
A little bit. Not
If
too much.
if you're using like the arpeggiator function on like a MIDI keyboard or something, like is this taking like how much of this is taking away? I bet on I haven't used any Reason or Logic or Pro Tools in forever, but I bet that there are like I can insert like a standard chord progression and then probably push like an arpeggiator button and probably generate like some simple sounding, not great music, but some simple sounding stuff pretty easily. Or maybe you could do pretty great music these days. I don't know. They're probably more sophisticated than I've seen in a long time. I'm trying to think if I feel like the generative AI stuff is that much different than that. I'm sure it will reach a point where it's even more. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I think there's gradation here. I do think that if you do use like any like built-in arpeggiators or something, and maybe some like preset melodies or something, like I do think that that sort of has the same problem as generative AI. If you're kind of giving up all of the agency and all the composition, because then I do feel like it has the same kind of slop factor to it.
Sure.
It's just that generative AI obviously makes it easier for anyone to do it. And like it just generally like encourages like removing humanity from art and makes that extremely easy.
Yeah. So here's something I'm kind of curious about. How do you feel about the "We Are Charlie Kirk" song?
I haven't heard it, so I can't really speak to it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Because it's interesting that is like a whole cultural thing that's kind of like a big deal now. It's like a meme basically, but this is an AI generated meme, right? I think, right? The Charlie Kirk song is a fully AI generated song, right? So I'm pretty sure
is it a video or just
no?
audio?
It's just a song, or there might be a video to it. I don't know, but it's like obviously you've heard the "We Are Charlie Kirk" meme, right? You've at least heard a little bit of it, I imagine.
I don't think so. No, I've just seen people talk about it.
Oh, is that by choice, or how can you miss that?
Well, how would I? Where would I? Does it just happen upon your desk? Like, what's the?
Yeah,
how
"We Are
does that
Charlie
appear?
Kirk." What do you mean?
Well, I'm not Charlie Kirk. Are you?
We all are. What are you talking about?
Okay. Oh yeah, I guess that was the. Yeah. Okay. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I
No,
missed
it's
the
all good.
memo.
Yeah, okay. I guess I'm still kind of I'm in the wherever zone, I guess, on the ethics of it. I don't have a strong position on it. My guess is the more I would dig into it, the more I would probably find reasons to I feel like I would find reasons to lean against it in terms of it like it is a little bit more not cool for the art world. But I don't know. Yeah, sorry, I was about to drift off to the practicality again. When things are like unstoppable, I tend to think about them less often because I'm like, this is like, there's nothing we can do. This is just an onslaught of shit because it's such a cost-saving thing, you know?
Yeah, but I feel like it's also not entirely. I mean, there are certain things that were discovered, like I don't know, like you could produce viruses in a lab in order to wipe out humanity. Like that technology exists right now, and it is kind of terrifying that it's possible to do this. But
The difference between that
society
kind of
managed
stuff,
to
though.
make that not.
Yeah, but
popular,
the difference
right?
between that kind of stuff, though, despite what the conspiracy theorists think, is that this requires like a lot of people, a lot of technology, a lot of research. Like it's a big ordeal, and if you clamp down on this internationally, you can get everybody to stop doing it. But like the AI stuff seems like very pervasive, pretty easy to set up technologically now. I know that like training for like the newer models it maybe is like a larger operation, but this seems like a thing that's kind of like the Pandora's box is already open and out, you know?
Yeah, but I feel like that doesn't necessitate that you have to support its furtherance and growth, right?
Well, the thing comes down to like I'm the fucking loser who always like buys and gets the new OS and just starts getting used to it, because in my mind I'm like, well, we're all going to be on this eventually, so I just got to get used to it, so I'm over all the bullshit because it's inevitable. So it's not so much like, oh, I support this. I still think Windows, would it have been 7 or 10? Might have been okay. I don't remember if I liked 10 or not. But 7, I feel like, was the last, like, damn, this is like a sick, new, awesome fucking operating system. I feel like 7 was the last one I had that feeling for. I was like, oh, this is actually some sick shit. But I mean, when the new ones came out, like, I switched to them because I figured the industry is going to start supporting them and they're going to lose official support for Windows, whatever, so you're going to have to, yeah. Yeah, so do you think the AI plight, can it really be avoided?
Enjoy that.
I don't know. I mean, obviously it's hard to tell. I just know that I don't, like, personally, I value the craft in and of itself, and I find enjoyment in the craft. And so for me, like, using AI just personally in my work is just kind of like having someone else eat a fancy dinner, like, in a way. Like, when I do my work, it's not a means to an end. It's more like I like the means. I enjoy doing the things that I do. Obviously, that's not most people. So I think it's a little bit different in that sense. But I do think that is something that I would imagine most artists that have this approach to art probably don't enjoy generative AI for those reasons.
Okay. What do you want, Radiant?
I wanted to make the positive argument because you said you need to think about stuff, and I think it's a lot more like biased towards, I think, the pro AI side than the anti AI side. But obviously, I'm biased because I'm an AI developer. But yeah. So
I want you to lose your job. That's what I'm trying to do.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Well, this is kind of ironic, but anyway, I wanted to bring up just a personal story that I had. So I know somebody that had a really hard time of breaking into, I guess, like music-based stuff because they had a very, I think, abused childhood, and basically, like, they had a bunch of talent or raw talent, but they didn't have any like formal training in kind of music theory, basically. So like they didn't know how to like compose, or like they couldn't play any instruments, but they were pretty good at like they had perfect pitch, and like they could like play the piano and stuff like that just by listening to music. But using I think using Suno, basically they were able to break into a songwriting career because they were able to turn their like music into like full-on songs, which they were able to bring to a pretty big school, and this isn't in the US, this is another country, but this school, when they heard this song, they basically took this person and put them into their songwriting classes, and right now they're doing very good. Like, their life has pretty much turned around completely. But like, yeah, that whole long story is basically just to kind of give a example of how like AI is kind of like more just like is providing a tool for people to like, I guess,
We got it. Bridges again. We heard the Suno
Yeah.
story a million times on the Adam Neely video. Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I do agree that it does genuinely help some people to, take some steps further and actually create something in some sense, or using it as a tool. But I think the vast majority of use cases are going to be for basically replacing humanity and generating slop. So I think there might be cases, of course, where one person gets something really positive out of it. And I mean, I'm happy for them
Yeah.
that this was a good thing that happened, for sure.
Okay,
If they're a
so
real person. I'm not sure if you're making this person up, but
no, I promise. It's a totally real person. I just don't want to dox them. Is the thing. They try to be very private, but yeah. Well, I mean, just the point is that it's mainly just that it's like providing people, I guess, like the baseline is higher, if you know what I mean. Like, as in, like, I guess another example, I actually did this over the weekend, is I coded something using JavaScript, and I haven't used JavaScript in years. But the only reason why I was able to code this script, which I'm currently using, which is really nice for me, is because like it took me, I think, like 6 hours to make using AI, versus like back then, before like ChatGPT and all this other stuff, it would have taken me at least a few days just to get back into Java, and who knows if I would have been able to like figure out like how all the other packages and stuff like that work. Like I would say like AI is more just like if you're good with the tool, you can do better with it, right? Like so that's what I mean when I say it's like I guess raising the baseline. Does that make sense?
So I've tried using AI for coding, and in almost every single case, it's like I'm like 80% done with something, and I want a little bit of help for, like, I'm stuck on something, and it would be nice to use an AI to see if I can get unstuck. And when I'm 80% done with something, and I use AI, it inevitably takes me to 50% done. Because it's so full of bugs and issues and weird things I now have to parse and try to figure out. And it was just a horrible experience. It was just so bad.
Okay, I think, well, okay, so
I don't
I'm
know, it's
sympathetic.
probably like
I'm sympathetic.
domain specific, so maybe it's different. But
I'm sympathetic to things like that, but I think we have to move past those arguments because I think that at this point, like if AI was really just a detriment to every single workflow, then I think the problem would solve itself. But that's clearly not where we're at, right? Like it is going to make some kind of like a minimal
useful.
viable
I'm
product,
not gonna say that it's not useful.
like something that can be shipped much easier for whatever reason. Now there might be a legitimate conversation about like long-term accumulation of like funky problems related to AI or something that we just haven't seen yet, but
I think it's just literally like it's a skill or whatever, like kind of like getting good at using a new tool in whatever craft you're working in. Like
that
if
could be it as
people
well.
are-
Yeah, I just don't know how to use it correctly. Yeah.
I think people who are really good with it can make things much better than if they had, or than anyone else could have done like before the tool existed. Yeah.
what do you have,
I guess-
Uni? What do you
I
want?
don't know if I'd say that, but certainly much faster. Yeah.
Yeah,
just
I was gonna say
like,
faster
I
as well.
think something that's is like I think there's a thing of like the sort of decisions that people are making is the important part in terms of like a creative work, which I think I'd broadly align with because like that's the stuff that if I'm doing something creative, that's the stuff that I want to be doing. Like it's what's the point if I'm just asking the AI to do it all? But like I still think there's room in there for especially sort of like AI programming stuff. Like if I, especially stuff like the like table autocomplete stuff, code editors, where you can just
Wait, your mic is going in and out. Like you're either swallowing your mic or it's got a.
manual functions.
Yeah, it's really difficult to hear.
That might be my internet. I might be. Hold on.
Okay. You're good now.
Is
Maybe.
this better now?
Sure. Maybe try it. Go for it.
Okay. Hopefully this is fine. Yeah, like I think there's still ways to retain that creativity. I think the worrying thing isn't that. It's like, do people care, right?
It
Like
still
the thing isn't necessarily does this AI exist. It's do people seem to like Slop, like a lot,
Wait,
which
so like,
I find insane.
so like when people are using AI, like it's not like you're just saying like, well, I mean, you kind of are saying like do this, but like it really does matter in how you're using it, like how you prompt it or like how you like have your hyperparameters tuned or whatever. Like all this stuff is like super important in terms of getting out what you want. Otherwise, it's just going to be slop. Yeah. Like I feel like there's a lot of
Yeah,
like
but for
really is a
one,
lot of like
that's
skill.
AI
using it.
today, right? That's not AI forever. Like,
But
this
I
stuff
mean,
is
Yeah, but
very
like in the
likely going to
future,
improve.
right? But in the future, it's always as long as it's going to rely on prompts. It's always going to be based on like how good someone is at using the models, right?
So does that make you a better programmer, or
yeah,
does that
but
make you a better like prompter?
In my experience, if you don't know how to describe your problem, or at least if you don't know like what your problem is and like what needs to be solved properly, then you're not going to be able to prompt your AI to give you a good result. Like
So you're
Like
only
it-
using AI for stuff that you already
That's
know how to
mostly just
do?
because AI
you're
currently
not
is
using
not
it
very good at
only
that
for what
stuff.
you know how to do. You're using it for stuff that you know like how to solve. I guess if that makes sense.
So like you would use it to do boilerplate stuff, basically, or
Not necessarily boilerplate. It can be a lot more like if so I'll speak from personal experience is like when it comes to programming, like sorry I got distracted from a Discord message, but when it comes to programming, like if I'm able to describe a problem in a I guess in a detailed manner, I get much better results than if I were just say like, hey, I want to make this app. Can you help me do it? Like, and if you notice, well, and it's another thing, like there's a thing called planning mode in, for example, Cursor.
Okay,
but I
stop.
think only
Sure,
people
this
know
is going to be a
about
2-hour waste of conversation. Okay. What Radiant is saying is that, like, and I think we all probably agree. So then the question is there a meaningful distinction here? There's a difference between I want to create an app that does A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I don't know how to make it in JavaScript, but I'm going to prompt an AI to say, hey, I would like to make an app that has all of these features, that interacts with customers in this way, or users in this way, and all the blah, 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 blah. And then you prompt it to do that versus going to an AI and saying, make a cool app, and then whatever it makes you publish. That these are like meaningfully different interactions with an AI. So do these meaningfully different interactions matter insofar as drawing a distinction, or do we care about some and not the other? I think that's kind of the question here. Does that make sense, what I just said?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
I do think that it does matter it does matter in the sense that, like, what did you do? Like, where was your agency inserted into this process? And it could be that you wrote like a Bible of spec for like the whole thing that you wanted to make. And then the AI is using that as a basis for generating code for some program or whatever. I think that is a better use of AI, even if that led to the same quality
a defib?
output
I don't have a
as
defib.
some future AI that could do it with, just a simple prompt, just not outlining all of that. I think it's better that there's agency and intent behind the first one.
I think that's what makes you like I don't know if you say an artist, but like that's a creative input, right? Like without it, you're not really doing anything. It's the AI doing all of it. So there is like that sliding scale.
Yeah, I think, like, again, like if you put a more detailed prompt, I think if you don't put a detailed prompt, you're gonna get slop, right? You're gonna get like something generic that anybody would have made, and it's not gonna be like no one's really gonna care because it's like something they've seen every day.
So if you were able to get high quality work, even if you did a low quality prompt, like I think I would see that as a bad thing still.
Well, it's kind of like raising the standard, I guess. Kind of like, I guess, photography and like painting back then or whatever. Like.
Well, these are two.
Like, yeah,
I would argue these are two totally different skill sets, but
yeah, I guess. But I guess like the main thing I just want to focus on is that like people who are good with AI, or at least like people who know how to integrate it in their work, tend to perform a lot better than somebody who isn't using it at all, or even like somebody that just got in because of the AI.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that at all. Yeah, that just seems evident.
Yeah. So I think overall, it's still.
I think there is another thing there. There's
but like it's more like something that's
maybe, but I feel like there's also there's a lot of people who are not really like I feel like all of the people at the moment, at least, who are being able to do stuff that they wouldn't do otherwise, beyond just being AI being a speed up. I feel like. Well, not to be mean, but like not the most competent in the areas that they were trying to, do stuff with AI in. Like I don't know about other people, but for me, everything that I am doing with AI involvement, I probably could do myself perfectly fine. It's just going to take me a lot longer.
Exactly.
I feel like there's quite a few people who much before, and that's where a lot of the like slop stuff comes from. But people really like the slop.
So,
Right.
so I guess the thing that
Consumers don't
I
seem
don't
to
know, so-
distinguish.
okay, so here's a question: if you had a button that you could press, let's say AI reached a point where you could press a button and that would generate the next Grand Theft Auto game in like, I don't know, an hour, would that be a good thing for society or would that be a bad thing for society? Or whatever nuance you want to have there.
I think actually even a broader question.
it's-
I think that's a good specific use case scenario. I think a broader question maybe comes down to this definition of art, like or a little bit less broad than that would be, can the consumer be wrong about what they ought to be consuming? Is I think a good question to consider, and I think we don't like to consider it sometimes. Well, artists will consider this all the time. The most common example, if you've ever, well, I don't know what the kids talk about today, but in a saxophone studio, the hatred was always for Kenny G. That Kenny G was like the slop saxophone player, incredibly basic performer, never really did too much impressive. His playing was serviceable, the composition was uninspired, but like obviously Kenny G, it might be the most popular sax musician of all time in terms of how much money he's made selling albums and shit. But then the question is that you have to make the argument that like, well, the consumer is wrong to prefer Kenny G over, you know, Coltrane, or Kenny G over, you know, a more accomplished saxophone player. How do you deal with that, with the consumer making what an artist would consider to be incorrect choices?
And I mean, that kind of also goes back to the trust issue, like what people like online, and what's actually fulfilling for people. I think those are also very, very different. Like, there's so much in social media that's basically junk food.
Yeah.
And people are just eating it up, and it is generally not good, you know? And I feel like there's a similar thing that might happen to creative industries as well, and the way that people consume art.
I think one thing that people are kind of uncomfortable realizing, also from like the music world, when we think back to like the great music of all time, like these operas or these, you know, these amazing composed pieces, a lot of these things weren't done because they were popular and people just had better taste back then. Like a lot of these things were just commissioned by royalty, and they sounded good because they were literally made for and commissioned by, you know, like the upper echelon elite in society. I remember there was a book I read about piano players a long time ago when I was in high school, and I remember that it's reported, I don't know how accurate it is, but supposedly Beethoven had a huge complaint because every time after the C-sharp sonata, whatever thing he released, the first movement is, people refer to it as Moonlight Sonata. After he had played that song, audiences loved it so much they would request it all the time. And I think at some point he was reported as saying to an audience, like, surely I've written a better piece than this, because he was so irritated at audiences constantly requesting this thing. It was like the Moonlight Sonata was like the slop of his compositional stuff that he didn't really consider to be anywhere near among his greatest of pieces, especially when it's just the first movement they wanted to hear. But so audiences have always had this desire for slop, and there's always been this weird fight because not everybody could be an artist. You had to be kind of an elite to dedicate time to it, depending on the type of art you're talking about, or a lot of it was commissioned by monarchs or commissioned by wealthy people. But when the people can truly decide and they're making shit decisions, what do you do about that?
Yeah, I don't know, and it's difficult to, like, I feel like there's always been a kind of uncomfortable balance between what artists want to make and versus what makes money, and what is like financially viable to
Sure.
make. And there's
I have a
always like
question.
compromises you do there. But I feel like the way that generative AI is inserted into this is that this kind of like makes it significantly worse, in the sense that like it's going to be so hard to stay afloat as an artist in a world where nobody cares about the stuff that you make, and because everybody's kind of like generating their own like personal art, whether that's video games or music or whatever. And if that is the future of like music, if that is the future of YouTube, that everybody's just kind of generating their own personal video feed, or even generating social media feeds, I guess. Like, I feel like we have fundamentally lost a huge part of what is kind of the point of humanity, of like connecting with other people and enjoying the stuff that other people create, having a shared experience of playing the same video games. And like, I feel like if everybody's just siloed off into their own bubble of slop, I feel like that is genuinely really depressing.
Okay.
And bad, one might say.
So I have a question about, like, I guess what you consider like beneficial or whatever. So like, if we know that these models, I guess, to prompt them, you have to, like, I guess you consider it like piloting it, right? Like piloting the model to produce something that you want. Wouldn't
It's a bit of an insult to pilots, but sure, I get what you mean.
like you're, well, yeah, I guess, but yeah, basically is that like it's based on your input, right? So like, shouldn't these artists produce something that like given, or how do I describe this? Like, given if the artist is good at prompting it, that means they'd get back better output, or like a better like art piece. Like, why wouldn't that just be the case, rather than just saying that, like, I guess everyone's gonna be feasting on junk food, or like, you know, I guess, like, why wouldn't it just be like what we're doing right now?
The
except just,
difference,
like, except a scaled up version, right?
Wait, I'm not
the
entirely
difference
sure what your
between good
point
prompt
is.
and a bad prompt is like not.
We say that one at a time.
The difference between a good prompt
Sorry,
and a
the
bad prompt
mic
is not. Oh.
It's just not very significant now. Like you can give a really good prompt,
No, that's
and
true.
especially when you're one-shotting stuff.
Like, if I give a
mean,
bad prompt when I'm
like
coding something, it definitely comes out like literally slop. versus like if I'm very specific and know what I'm asking, then it just comes out like almost flawless. Like I have to do some bug fixes, but yeah, if I'm
Yeah,
referring
like
to my
when
work.
I'm saying this, I'm talking about like more artistic stuff. When you're looking at image generation, the difference between a good prompt and a bad prompt is not very significant for like if you're prompting
I've
most of these, especially the
But
closed source
I think
ones. Stuff like the all of the Gemini stuff is not it's not that significant.
I would heavily disagree because Gemini, I think, is a different thing than from using actual like prompting or I mean like image generation models, like the pipeline that we were looking at like a couple days ago or a couple weeks ago actually at this point. You notice how like yours was super complicated and you had to
Yeah,
going
like
through a bunch of layers. Like I don't think Gemini could come up with something
yeah,
um, like it's
that's
similar,
fine.
but
Gemini
it's
will give
trying a
better
bunch of
results.
things. I don't think it would
The
give
the
better
the reason to
results.
do the stuff that I was doing with workflows with AI stuff is because it gives you more control and it's
well,
also an interesting learning experience. But like the
I feel like
Gemini will give better results in like 99 cases.
I feel like
It
all of this stuff kind of like
I don't
I
know.
usually just skip ahead and just assume that all of these tools are going to get much better very quickly, even though they might not. Like assuming you could just type a very simple prompt to get the result that you want. Like, would that be good? So like that's the thing that I'm kind of worried about. Because yeah, obviously there's going to be different results depending on like if you did a good prompt or a bad prompt or did it incrementally and gave it a lot of context and yada yada. But regardless, like I think the more interesting discussion is like, is it bad if humans can create whatever they want creatively by prompting something with a very, very simple prompt with very little agency to get something that looks professionally made? I think fundamentally that is undermining actual artists, of people who do the craft themselves, like broadly.
Yeah, I mean it's. I guess one thing that I'd be curious of, I feel like I probably guess the answer, but like imagine if we didn't have AI and we were sort of much more in the space of like brain-computer interface tech, and you could have like just a headset you put on and you can visualize a final finished, say, an art piece in your mind, and it would effectively bring that into the reality. Is there like I feel like that's something that feels less morally bad instinctually, but like it's going to have all the same downstream effects.
Well,
For
I mean,
most
I feel
part.
like that does like have it does maintain the aspect that it came from your brain, I guess. But it is very different from the process of making art, at least the way that we do it today. Because like making art is a pretty time-consuming process, and the fact that it takes time changes the outcome. So the way that something looks in your head at the beginning of working on a piece of art is very, very different from what you usually end up with at the very end.
But
So
we can agree that like this AI art models, like the outputs that they come out with, is almost always like worse quality than something that's just made from scratch by a human, right? Or at least like a lot of people tend to not prefer those types of arts pieces.
no,
Otherwise,
but I mean, it could still.
Let's
I
assume
mean,
that we'll
they're
get past
probably
that
just
because
gonna
we're probably
improve.
gonna
Yeah,
that's
they're
gonna
gonna
get
improve
better.
over time.
yeah, but like I'm just saying like. As in, like, I think that's kind of an example of somebody that's like poor at prompting, because I know artists that do use these models to come up with like, I guess to brainstorm ideas, and they like that would basically go off of what the model would come out with. And I also know people that would even like straight up train these models with their own art styles, so they can come out with like rough drafts of things that they would then touch up and then sell or would do whatever with.
Okay,
Um,
so
like,
let's say someone does use AI to, or no, let's say someone is an artist and they do draw a picture. They do like a full illustration. They spent a bunch of time on it. Maybe it took like a week or something to work on this big piece, and then they also use an AI to generate like an image that looks exactly the same by typing 5 sentences. Like, do you think these two images are meaningfully different in terms of their like artistic value?
no. I mean, if depending on like how
Why?
you prompted it. Or wait, are you saying like was the thing generated with just like a straight up generic prompt where it's like make me something cool or like how
Yeah,
was it
one of them
generated?
was pretty much a simple prompt like that, and the other one was drawn by hand or like manually, I guess.
I guess in artistic value, I would say the artist probably came up with something that is, I wouldn't say like the other one's more
The images
artistically
are exactly the
valuable.
same, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just like there's meaning in the sense of like how the thing was made, right? Like like if somebody made this like after like a week of like painstaking work, I think that's gonna be more like I guess artistically valuable in like a human sense than somebody who just prompted something and came and got a really detailed picture back. But I wouldn't say
It's
it's,
kind of like
like
if someone is like cooking food for you, rather than you just ordered some food from some anonymous DoorDasher. Like you're obviously going to appreciate one of those a little bit more because there's thought
it,
that went into making that for you, and they thought of you, and there's someone you
right.
know, and
But yeah, exactly. Kind of like I guess like handmade stuff. Like even though it's gonna have like these little mini imperfections, like although in this case they're exactly the same. But I think that's still gonna be like something that's gonna exist. It's
Here,
just
let's
that
okay.
like
Wait. Well,
it's not
actually,
gonna
let's
be a
back up.
requirement.
Okay, so actually, I think this is an interesting question. Talking about any imperfections or whatever is missing the point. Here's a question. Let's say that you have two musical pieces, and let's say that these musical pieces are exactly the same. No imperfect, whatever. They're the exact same musical pieces. It's a piano performance, okay? And let's say that you tell one person that there was a master piano improvisational guy, and he was at a hall, and so he was like, oh, improv, like a romantic sounding piano piece. And then the guy plays a piano piece, and he just improvises it, right? And there's a recording of that, and a person hears that. Okay, he's like, okay, that's that piano piece. Let's say that you tell a second person with the exact same piano piece. There was a man who was dying of cancer, who was a lifelong composer. He was making this piece for his wife. He recorded the piece, he died, and then this is the recording that he left to the wife to play to remind her of him or whatever. Do you think that the person's perception of that art would change at all, or would both of these pieces be the exact same piece?
wait,
they're quite different.
was there any
how
AI
they'd be
involved
perceived.
in this at all? Or...
No.
Sorry, did I miss that? No. Okay. I mean, the perception obviously changes based off of the story you have around it, right?
Yeah, so that's I think that you can back that up just a little bit more, or scoot that forward a little bit more, to if you have the exact same piece that was done via generative AI versus a piece that was created by a human being that is putting some amount of time, effort into their training to get to that point, and then the project that they're working on, and then the particular piece of art that they're creating. The question is like, does that process meaningfully inform the viewer? Do they feel any different? Is there a different feeling produced? Is there a different inherent value or consumption value even to the art that's being made?
Which two things are we comparing now?
Well, it's not. It's just a general question of.
Or like,
Your question was getting at the
so-
idea of like, if the exact same thing was produced by a human versus a robot, like, is the consumption of that thing the same? And it seems like you were hinting that there must be something different in value ontologically. There's something different between a piece of art created by a human versus a robot, even if the art is exactly the same. And I mean, I would argue that even between humans, you could make that same distinction. So it seems strange to say that AI created art and the human created art should be treated exactly the same. And we don't even treat art created between two humans necessarily the same, because the story would inform us of how we feel about the art. Yeah.
Yeah, like it could be something like, I don't know, let's say you have a gold ring from your sister who passed away or something, and that gold ring, you could just buy it at a store, and maybe these two look identical, but obviously you're going to value one of them more because this ring has a history to it that you really, really care about.
Sure.
Assuming you
Yeah,
cared about
yeah,
your
I'd
sister,
say-
right?
I think markets for both will still exist. It's just, I guess it would just mean that people who want slop will get slop. I guess,
Okay,
like,
so
in a way
then
it's negative,
my
but-
next question is, to what extent will the market shrink if AI gets to the point where you can press a button to generate Grand Theft Auto 55?
I think in a sense I guess it would shrink kind of like to the detriment of people who are just making it to make money, because now it's like more accessible for other people to get like the generic, like people who don't really care about who's making it, they just want the thing, I guess. But I don't know, I feel like in general for society, I think that's better because that means, everybody gets to get what they want. But yeah.
So everybody gets junk food.
I mean, not necessarily junk food. It's just that people who want junk food
Yeah,
get junk food, and people who want like fulfilling stuff, or people who do get fulfilled by that stuff, will get the fulfilling stuff, or will still
Kind
pay
of like
for it at
how,
least.
so
Well, here, real quick,
I
because you
do
used
feel
the
like it's,
comparison to junk food. I mean, we can literally go exactly with that. Do you think it's good in society that ultra-processed food is so readily available to all people, or should that stuff be, curtailed? Should we start to pull back on that stuff, even legislatively or legally?
Well, I guess it depends on how bad it is for people.
Well,
on their
50% or
health.
whatever, obesity, diabetics, chronic illness, all of these things are massively exacerbated by this. So it seems like it's been a negative for society in that way, but it's a net it's a
but
positive
then-
that people like
I
eating
don't
it.
think they're actually linked that closely.
Okay, let's assume
Like,
for
sorry,
sake of
what?
argument they are.
Like I get the point, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of a broader question, I feel like, of like how much should we regulate people engaging in behavior that's detrimental to themselves? I don't know.
Well, I
Well,
think the
we're saying
AI
that-
thing would ultimately have to come down to regulation, right? You're never. Well, that was kind of my argument. Oh, now we're getting more to the practical thing, but like, you were never really enforcing this culturally when there's so much money to be saved by utilizing these AIs, right?
Yeah, but I guess it's like it's a different value in terms of like what we value as a society. Maybe shouldn't just be saving money.
Sure.
Except
Okay,
of course
wait,
the financial systems are designed to be like that, right?
I have a question. So like, you know, these companies that like commission artists to make like a marketing material or whatever. Like, do they like? I don't like. Is there value in having them to like pay extra to get artists to make it by hand versus just like getting an AI to generate it? Because at the end of the day, like they're not drawing any more value, at least like for them as consumers, in having it being hand drawn versus like AI generated, because they're just using it to, yeah, as marketing.
I don't entirely agree. I see your point. I think most people don't really dig into all the nuance of whatever they're consuming, but I do think that this is the origin story of most artists. You're
'Cause I
inspired by
think that's
something that
most of
someone else
the-
made, right?
I think that's most of the market that will get lost. It's people who don't really care about like the artist that made it, or like the process they went through, or anything like that. They just want something pretty.
And,
is
and
that
to me,
necessarily a
that
bad
is the
thing?
thing that is the most blackpilling about all of this. Is that
I know,
it's probably just going to happen because nobody cares. And the amount of people who do care are a minority, right?
Look, I do. Well, like I think there's definitely people out there that do like to have stuff that's made by a human, because like you like to understand like their story and like what they went through when they made it and all that. Like, yeah, I just like even the fact that we're having this conversation is like I guess like evidence of that. Like even myself, like I'm not gonna like it feels kind of nice to have something drawn by a human one as like commissioned art, whatever, just like pretty to look at versus just like me generating something using Stable Diffusion. But yeah, it's just that I think it's that
I think the
now
big
it's more
problem though is that
accessible
like
for randoms.
I think the problem for me is that humans and AI generated things are going to compete in the same attention space, and it's basically going to clog up all the channels that we use for communication and sharing of art and opinions, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I'm just saying that I think that like people who wouldn't know, who don't already care about people who are specifically getting some kind of art and they're wanting to use it for a purpose, that wouldn't care about like what the artist went through or if it was handmade or not, aren't like they would be helped because like now they can get it for cheaper. And I guess like the artist will get hurt, but like kind of like in general for society, is it better for, I guess, people to, sorry, I got distracted by a chat poll, but is it better for people to get stuff, better for society if people can just get stuff like, or they're more accessible to get nice art, right?
Well, that's the question.
I-
Wait, the
I-
question
Part
really,
of the
I think,
issue is that
I think the question is really teasing at like what is the inherent value of really any particular thing, but especially art, right? Like if somebody hangs a painting in their house that is the Mona Lisa, do you feel differently if somebody says like that's the actual Mona Lisa versus this is just like a replica? I say replica, but I mean like, I'm sure people have, you can buy a painting of the Mona Lisa that's not like the real Mona Lisa, right? Like do those two things feel different?
Yeah, or like someone in your family drew it, like tried to replicate the Mona Lisa. Like all of these things add a ton of weight to it in a way that just having it be cheaply printed or something or duplicated just doesn't. And I think that the problem with AI for me is that like everything commercially made is going to have that kind of hollowness to it. Like I don't know, I've had a few moments where
Like they don't care about who made it or whatever, right? Like it sounds like you're saying we should subsidize them to use like actual human-made art versus like, you know, just like as a society we should just be letting them use cheaper AI art.
I don't know if
'Cause they're not getting
subsidize
any
is the
value
right
out of it.
word.
Here's a question, Radiant. If you could get a better girlfriend who is an AI girlfriend, is that better and available to more people than having a real girlfriend? Or should that be like not an option for people?
I think it should be an option, but like I would probably stick with the real girlfriend just because like I
You don't want people
I
to
get
shame
more
you on
value.
social media?
What if
Well,
what
I
if it
guess
came to the
that-
point to where the AI girlfriends were so good, you're getting like 30, 40% of young men are choosing like AI girlfriends?
I mean, that's just how society will go then. I mean, like, there
Well, no,
would
no, but
be
we're asking
someone-
what you think. Do you think that's a good thing, or do you think it's neutral? Do you think it's good because now more people have access to girlfriends that might not have had access to them in the past? Do you think it's a bad thing?
Yeah, I guess I'd say it's probably good. Yeah, as long as people are getting emotionally fulfilled and like we figure out how to handle like the reproduction.
Sure. Okay.
type-
Then the
like-
last question, I guess. In like grade school, did you ever read The Giver?
No.
Okay. Is there any, so the question, the fundamental question I'm teasing at is there any fundamental value in the human experience whatsoever? So my example question would be, if you could put like a pair of goggles on and just live a whole fantasy life for your entire life and then die in some bed, or I guess similar to like the Matrix or whatever, is this a thing that you think we should advocate for? Or do you think that'd be a bad thing? Would something be lost there?
Like if the world was like if everyone could just choose to live in a holodeck for their whole lives.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a hard question, but I'd probably lean towards like I have to think about it, but I'd probably say like it doesn't. Yeah, I don't think it's a big deal, or like I think it's like pretty much the same thing. Like it's kind of like
Okay. All right. That's his. Okay. So then your
Yeah,
position is
that's
going to be.
difficult to argue
Yeah.
against, I think.
Well, I mean, like if that's your position, then I think that would inform the entire AI debate. Like you probably like have a maximalist AI opinion on everything, assuming the outcome is good. Does that make sense?
I feel like as well, like I feel like part of this discussion that is.
well, yeah, I don't think we're
sort
talking
of
about
being glossed
holodeck
over,
stuff,
but
though.
I feel like it's kind of.
we're assuming that AI will always
Sorry,
be
is my
able to
audio coming
like.
through?
Yeah,
You're coming through. I'm
sorry.
sorry, you're lagging a lot, or like I think when you talk, I think there's like a 3-second delay on your hearing everything else. I don't know if you're connecting from the moon or.
Fuck
real quick,
Virgin Media.
Real
My
quick,
internet
we're
provider's
making all these
shit.
assumptions. We're making all these assumptions that AI will eventually get good enough to where like it could literally like.
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about. That's boring. Let's just assume it is because it's.
I know we're
'cause-
assuming it's all holodeck stuff, but like
Yeah.
I don't think that'll ever be the case.
Sure, but that's not what we're talking
Yeah.
about. We're talking about like, would it be okay or is anything lost? Because we're at lesser versions of that right now. But
Yeah,
and-
then we're totally detached from real life. Then in terms of like how AI is affecting current society.
well, no,
No, I don't
we're
think
not
it's
totally detached.
from it because it still relates to it, and it kind of gets at the heart of the issue instead of talking about useless conversations like, oh, is AI art? Like that.
Well, yeah,
that is not an interesting question to
I-
me.
Well, but I
Or
feel like
is
it kind of.
is it good or whatever? Because that's just the way it is right now, and it's going to change over time.
Well, but I
and,
mean, like, really, that's
yeah.
the conversation you're having, though. Whether you want to have it or not, at some point, that's going to have to be like the conversation. Is there some fundamental intrinsic value in humans being involved in some artistic creation? Like
Yeah,
that,
no, I
yeah.
agree with you. I mean, yeah,
Oh,
that is
okay.
the conversation you should have. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess part of like the is art or is AI stuff art. I guess it depends on how you're having that conversation, but it kind of feeds into that of like, well, what does it mean for something to be art? Does a human need to be involved? Is it the same thing if it's created by a monster or a robot, or nature or whatever? Yeah, but a lot of people don't
You know,
engage.
I just don't think that like whether it's good or bad has nothing to do with whether someone would consider it to be art or not. Like I would just consider it to be art that I don't like for other reasons. If someone wants it to be categorized as art.
Oh, you would consider AI generated art to be art?
No, I'm saying if someone did categorize it as art, I
Oh.
would still be against it because it has nothing to do with whether it's.
Oh, sure,
considered
but it
art
would
or
probably
not.
change how you would argue with the person, right? Like if somebody were to
Probably,
say, so like for Radiant, I don't think I would ever have a debate with Radiant about AI related stuff because it sounds like Radiant's position is fundamentally there is not any intrinsic value in like the human experience. Everything just kind of is, and nothing is.
There kind of is, but I don't. In the example you provided, I don't think there is. Like you're still a human using the holodeck or whatever.
Yeah, but you think the
But, like-
experience you have on the holodeck is just as valuable or worthwhile or has as much value as an ordinary human life? Like as
I have
as
to
a
think about it, but technically, isn't I guess human experience kind of like that already? Like it's all
Well,
like
you're interacting with real people right now.
Or at least you
Would
think
this,
you are.
this
Yeah.
conversation be different to you if this was in the holodeck? Like, would you weigh our opinions and our thoughts differently if it was all kind of virtual?
if the holodeck is simulating like actual human minds or whatever, like I would consider it the same.
Okay.
Like it's not. I don't want. Like I feel like a lot of this like hypothesizing is kind of like presupposing the idea that it's not exactly the same as actual human experience. But if it really was like 1-to-1, then yeah.
Well, but we're approaching that.
Well, then you're
We're-
kind of saying it's the same thing. So I don't know.
And we're also kind of like approaching that, like AI art is doing stuff that we never thought that it would be able to do, but it is doing that now, and it's obviously going to get better. So to pretend that there's going to be some hugely inseparable wall where it'll never be able to achieve some level of output is kind of silly.
I think you're overweighing like how good it actually is because it really does require a lot of like piloting. I
It might,
guess.
but however much piloting it requires is going to be it's probably multiple orders of magnitude less than the skill that would have taken to create what would have been created otherwise.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. That's why I say like it's raising the baseline, right? Like now everyone can come up with a super detailed like looking art piece.
Yeah, but the real question is like, are those art
nothing as
pieces the
unique.
same thing as if a human would have created them? That's where our disagreements are.
I think artistically, yes. Assuming the human, as long as
Yeah, of course, we know
as
your
it
answer is yes,
requires-
because I mean you.
as long as it
What do you
requires-
mean
no,
by
wait,
artistically there?
As long as a human is required to do something unique with the model to get an output, I think it will always be like artistically, like I guess, as like valuable as somebody if they just made it or if they painted it or whatever.
Wait, as valuable or as in it has
Styled.
value?
Wait, sorry, say that one more time.
Did you say
Freya?
as valuable as someone who like illustrated it themselves?
Yeah, just in a different way.
What? Well,
Like a
What do you
photographer
mean by
and
as
someone-
valuable in that case?
In the sense of like how a photographer, when they take a picture of nature versus like someone who just paints nature. Like I think like it just be like two different kinds of value.
Right. Okay. No, for me, the value in the AI generated one, the value is in the creative decision making that led you to write that specific prompt. Like you can take credit for the words you wrote, but the output, I feel like you didn't really have much direction there, right? So I feel like the value lies in the prompt that you wrote to me.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, like, again, like, let's compare like photography with like hand-drawn art, right? Like if someone takes a photo of a tree.
I don't like.
versus
I
just
feel like
somebody
these are
draws
two
it.
different art forms. I'm not comfortable comparing these. It's like comparing a podcast to like a musical performance or something. I feel like these are two different things.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to compare.
I no, because there's people out there that commission like back in the day, people commissioned paintings because they wanted like a photorealistic thing on their wall.
Yeah, but that's fine. That's a style of painting, but I just feel like fundamentally they're two different. Maybe at some point these were more
Okay,
similar.
fine.
but
Let's
yeah.
compare those two: photorealistic art versus photography. Like,
Okay, then what's the question?
And what about that?
well, I think that like. Hold on, sorry, I got distracted again by DMs. I'm really sorry. But
You can just not look
like,
at your DMs. It's possible. Just not look at those. You know?
No, because it makes a noise. Okay, I'm sorry.
Mute your
Like,
notifications. Go ahead.
I don't know how to do that. But yeah, basically just like I don't see like how it could be artistically less or more valuable or whatever just because like art is very like individualistic or whatever. Like
What do you mean it's individualistic?
No,
everyone draws
I
their
feel
own
like,
value
is this-
from art.
is this not part of the problem? Like what Radiant's doing now, sort of, is that it's not just like whether AI art is more valuable or whatever it is. It's
Oh no, wait, sorry,
People
wait, I got
don't
totally confused. Wait,
understand
No, wait,
Tyler
let him.
Art-
Let Uni, who can barely speak because of his f***ing lag. Let him finish his
No, no.
sentence. Jesus, go.
yeah, sorry. People don't appreciate or understand a lot of the art they consume and don't care to.
Yeah.
So like the kind of when Destiny's listening to a piece of music with having some knowledge about music history and like the stuff that's gone into that, he's going to be able to recognize and experience that in a way that's different to just some random person on the street. And I think that's important. And most people don't care to either make that distinction or ever learn any of the stuff necessary to appreciate stuff properly.
Did you redo my answer? Because I just realized where I got
It's not a
lost.
test. You don't have to redo your answer. You can give a different answer if you want. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give a different answer. Okay, what I was saying is that I think that the like when I was making the photography and art comparison, I was referring to how like I feel like AI when you're using it's more like a tool, right? Like where even though the tool can give you back a better like or like depending on the purpose that you're trying to get from it. Like when I said making photorealistic art that you'd hang up on your wall versus taking a photo of it, like I think like it's going to be as long as it involves like some kind of human intervention, then I think like it should give you the same, I guess, artistic value. Does that make sense?
No. All right,
I don't agree
it
with
makes
that at
sense what
all.
you just said, but like, do you think there'd be something different? Let's say that I could send a robot into a forest and say, "Robot, I would like you to go and find the most aesthetically pleasing photo location and take a picture for me and come back. Is that this? And then let's say it takes a picture versus I send a human into a forest and I say, you're a photographer. Find me what you think is the most beautiful thing. Take a picture of it and come back. If the robot came back and the person came back with the exact same picture, would there be any difference between how you would perceive these two things?
Yeah, there'd be a difference in perception, but I don't think you're getting back like the same thing.
No,
like
let's
if you-
assume you're getting back the exact same picture, the same
No,
thing.
I know, I know. Yeah.
Okay.
You're getting back the same output. I'm saying as in like in terms of artistic value or whatever. Like I don't think it's gonna be like the same kind of value.
What's
Like
different
in
then?
terms of- I think the difference is just like because the human taking the photo is like this is the human saying that I think this is the most beautiful thing ever versus the robot is just kind of like guessing or whatever algorithm it had on the inside figuring it out.
Then why do you think?
Like,
Then I don't understand how does that line up with all the other answers you gave? Because it seems like before you're saying none of this matters as long as the output is basically the
No,
same.
no, I'm not. I'm saying as in like it's two different kinds of values. Like they're two different. Like I think they're both artistically valuable because you are the one that told the robot to go. Like it's just tough. Okay.
I guess
know
where
how to
does that
describe this.
artistic
It's
value
hard.
come from in the case of the robot to you?
In the case of the robot, the artistic value, I guess, is just that like you ask the robot to come up with it in whatever algorithmic fashion or whatever. Like.
And you
But-
think that
and also, wait,
the act
sorry,
of
wait.
asking it has the same artistic value who's someone who's like spent their life like improving on a skill and becoming good at drawing and then drawing a picture or doing photography?
This
Or here,
all
wait,
needs
wait,
something
or
very
actually, wait.
monumental.
Here's a question. Here's a question. Okay, for this, if you have this opinion, if you prompt a robot to go into the forest and take the most beautiful picture, right? You're saying there's some artistic value in your prompting of the robot, right?
Yeah, I think it's like using like imagine like messing with dials. in
Sure,
an
sure, sure. Okay.
airplane or whatever,
If
right?
I
Like,
make that exact same prompt, but I make that prompt to a photographer, do I still get credit for that artistic value?
partially, yeah. Or not even.
Why?
No, actually, no. So I think it's the exact same credit. Yeah.
Why?
So
Assuming
it's an artist,
so I
right?
could basically say like my artistic contribution or ownership of a photo, asking a photographer to go take a picture, is basically the same as if I were to ask an AI or a robot to go take a picture.
Wait, does Radiant like Elon Musk?
No. Well, no. I hate Elon. I think. I mean, yeah, I hate him. I think he's the dumbest person in the world. Well, I don't think he's like
Just-
that
just
dumb,
checking.
but you know. But like, yeah, I do think that like, I don't think it's the same thing in the sense of whereas like you could say commissioning someone is like the same thing as commissioning an AI to do something, because I think there's a lot more like I guess work that goes into it. But I don't know. Then I feel like you can make that analogy for anything that involves like some kind of like tool that is more sophisticated than whatever like baseline thing it's based off of.
Okay. All right. Give me final thoughts. Go for it, on all of you.
Okay, yeah. My final thoughts is that I think that AI in general, I think just raises the baseline for whatever thing that it's made to train on, and people will just get back more of what they want and kind of like, yeah. And I think people who are good with AI will make better art. But yeah.
Okay. Freya, Uni?
Final
yeah,
thoughts.
I can go-
Oh
oh.
god, I don't know where to. I don't know if I have any final thoughts. I feel like I outlined my thoughts pretty well. I feel like this is kind of the, to me this is I'm worrying that this is going to be like the beginning of the end of having a viable career in any kind of creative industries. It worries me that this is all going to be overtaken by Slop and any and all art and product design and billboards and construction projects. It's really depressing to me that I can no longer have this like fractal zooming in on all of these things where I can appreciate the humanity that went into every single part of every single corner of every object that I'm looking at. All of that is going to be undermined now, where I can no longer trust that someone cared about this and someone thought about this. I think it's really depressing. I think that was one of the things I enjoyed about life, that I could zoom in on whatever it is around me and get a human story out of it. I think that's awesome. And I think it's really, really sad that we're about to remove that from the entire society. And again, this is not just about my job, you know? I'm not just like, oh, I want my job or whatever. I'm going to be fine. almost certainly. But yeah, that's how I feel about it.
And uni.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's inevitable, and there's not really much you need to stop AI stuff. Personally, I'm not affected that much, but I feel like the big thing that is sort of sad to me isn't just that artists are gonna like go away, which is like sad, I think, but it's that, or not that artists are gonna go away, but it's gonna become unviable to make a living off it, most likely. But that people just have no appreciation for stuff. People seem to love Slop. Even now, there's like people seem to really like Slop as long as it's like the fact it's made for them by the AI seems special enough for most people, and it's a shame that most people's consideration of art has been revealed to be so, I think, surface level, and yeah, it's slightly saddening for. I mean, whenever I'm doing creative stuff, that people don't care. But I think artists will still make art. It's just a shame it's going to be unviable, I think, for a career.
Wow. Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much for this
that's all.
wonderfully happy, forward-facing conversation.
I feel like we all learned
W
something.
AI, W Claude, W ChatGPT, W
Oh, God.
you know, every kind Stable Diffusion. I love AI.
All right.
Do you want to talk about HDR? Or
You can give
are
me
you
2
done?
seconds.
Oh, yeah,
What's your
that's
quick take on it?
HDR.
Yeah.
Bro, wait, what was the conclusion?
I'm gonna drop off my internet.
Did you like it? Did you turn on HDR?
Stop.
Wait, me?
What is
No,
Freya?
wait.
What was your take on it? What?
No, I just saw that. So, like, what was Dan's takeaway after that video?
I think Dan just likes it when monitor look pretty, but the Steve Yedlin guy had a whole presentation on it or whatever, which I don't know how much.
Okay,
of
I
it
think
you
I'm like
watched
halfway through the video, so I haven't seen the whole thing yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like Dan was spreading misinformation in chat. I think he was wrong about something. I don't know if that's something I should be concerned about, but
on. Well, you can argue with Dan and chat about it. Okay.
Wait, I'm sorry. Last thing.
Okay,
Last thing. Did you end up turning on HDR or not?
I don't have it on any of my stuff, but it's just because it's annoying to make any of it work. So.
Oh, okay, but you still think you would still use it, right? Otherwise?
I mean, I would use it because of how poorly supported like SDR seems to be and how retarded the marketing around HDR is. But the main point of the video was just that like HDR is kind of a big gimmick, and the way that it's been marketed and the way it's been spoken about is not very strictly correct, and that it's kind of like hurting the industry, like trying to move in that direction because there's just a lot of dumb shit involving it.
Okay, I think technically I need to watch the whole video because I only watched pieces of it. But like I feel like there's a lot of value in terms of like standardizing how people see things or whatever, and how these monitors kind of deal with stuff. But I'll
Well, sure, but like that
maybe
doesn't.
later.
But people don't
That's
always
already
view monitors in
standardized.
the same environment, right? So that doesn't really make that
I
much
know.
sense.
I think
yeah.
HDR puts that closer than what it.
Well, no,
what it was
definitionally
before.
doesn't, right? It's trying to.
I
It's
need,
trying
I need to watch
ass-
the video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I need to watch the video, and I'll make a longer or come with a better argument like later. But yeah.
did they get into quantization in that video?
Quantization of what?
The color depth.
Like the bit depth for the color stuff? A little bit. Why? What about it?
Okay, yeah, because I do feel like there's value in terms of getting rid of banding by having more color depth.
So the reason why this
but-
argument. Oh, I didn't know this guy was killing people. My bad. I would have killed him. This guy sucks too. Jesus. Oh, come on. Oh, nice job. Good job. You got him. Okay, sorry. So I think the argument that was made was that HDR has 10-bit depth and SDR has 8-bit depth, but the problem is that HDR needs the 10 bits of depth because of the way the gamma curve is drawn in order to eliminate the banding. So SDR eliminates banding at 8 bits better than HDR would at 8 bits. HDR does it a little bit better than SDR at 10 bits than SDR does it at 8 bits, but SDR at 10 bits would do it better than HDR does at 10 bits. That bit rate
Yeah,
thing is...
I was
yeah.
going to say that would still be an improvement in that case, but I don't know if that's...
Well,
I
but
feel
you
like
could just do
HDR is
SDR
such an
at...
overloaded term.
You could use HDR. You could use SDR at 10 bit if you really wanted to. Like you could do that.
Yeah, exactly, and that would be significantly better in terms of just just having detail in dark colors, right? But I don't know if that's called HDR because I feel like HDR is a word that has like 10 different meanings depending on
Yeah.
who you're talking to.
That's the problem. Is it become like a marketing slop thing. Basically, yeah.
Yeah, because like it is genuinely useful to have stuff that's like log encoded footage or whatever when you're doing like post processing or in video games as well when you do post processing there. Like that's where this kind of stuff matters quite a lot to have 10 bits of precision for stuff because you just have more control over post processing because you can expose things differently and whatnot. But
Sure.
for like end users, for consumers, like yeah, I don't see the argument for why you would have HDR right now. And I was kind of confused about Dan. He made a comment that like, oh, you know, it makes sense for games, and I wasn't sure what he meant by that. Because he was like, oh, I agree with the cinematography part, but not the video game part.
Sure. Okay. Well,
I can just fight with Dan about that, I guess.
yeah, be careful.
DGL.
Have fun.
WHDR.
Bye.
Okay, sorry for nagging so much.
No, you're good.
I feel like I was yapping at you, but it's okay to say no if you don't want to talk about
I
it.
can't do that. I'm too cowardly interpersonally, but all right. No, it was a good combo.
But then you yell at me because I was clearly annoying, and then I cry, and this ruined my day.
Well,
Like, damn.
okay. Well, thanks for coming on and chatting.
Thank you so much for the thanks for the convo.
Have fun.
All right, bye.
Getting Red Bull. 1 second. All right, what do we got?
Did you check out Emeru's apology?
Sasan? Oh god.
Oh
Did
boy.
you check out Emeru's apology? No. I haven't seen the Emeru apology stuff. I was gonna talk about it because like
Yeah.
Asmongold apparently, like Emeru got yelled at because woke is back.
We do have to do something about this. And I will continue, like, I think I might ramp up my hostility towards the people online that are pushing these woke narratives. I think...
Bro, is the woke in the room with you right now? What are these guys invent demons? Bro, woke has been gone for like fucking 5 years. Where is the woke at? What the fuck?
I think we might need to ramp it up and be even more militant and aggressive at these people.
Uh-huh.
We do.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to be a lot more militant and aggressive at them.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not, they'll do it to you.
Oh.
I'll link you guys like one of our Twitter communities. So there it is. They're used to being militant and aggressive. Yeah, well, we have to be even more aggressive. We have to be even more aggressive.
What does that even mean? He's not going to say, of course.
Is this the example here? If I can find it. We're at 40,000 people. We have made 40,000 people.
Good job, guys.
40,000 people in this community. We have to be more aggressive with these people.
What does that mean?
Because you don't want to have them go around and bully and try to enforce their worldview on other people. That's what we need.
We have to bully them to enforce our worldview on them because we don't want them to bully other people to enforce their worldview on other people? What?
I feel like you're just alienating moderates by being more like the left.
I love when you hear arguments verbatim brought up on the right that you guys will use on the left, and then I can show you how little they give a fuck about this. Like, oh, we gotta build the moderate, and then
That's just, bro, like,
don't give a fuck.
this play by their rules and maybe they'll let you in. That's I don't function that way, okay? Other people like functioning that way. That's not what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't play by other people's rules.
Uh-huh.
I do what I want and that's it. They aren't winning though. They absolutely, like, whenever they're able to bully and cause an effect like this, that's absolutely a win for them. They're going to see that as a win 100%. They absolutely will.
Yeah, true. Actually, I just need to have this thing saved in my desktop. Jesus. Somebody should study, like, the radicalization of fucking Asmongold. It is insane how off the deep end he went in, like, a year or two. Holy. Everybody posting about AI and programming sounds like this to me. What is this guy? Jacob Manuel. After countless sleepless nights, I can finally say I have perfected an equation that has the potential to significantly impact the future. E equals mc squared plus AI. This equation combines Einstein's famous equation E equals mc squared, which relates energy to mass and the speed of light, with the addition of AI. By including AI in the equation, it symbolizes the increasing role of artificial intelligence in shaping and transforming our future. My equation highlights the potential for AI to unlock new forms of energy, enhance scientific discoveries, and revolutionize various fields, such as healthcare, transportation, and technology.